moving into the capital allocation issue, which is obviously interesting. One is we have some sort of resurfacing of inflation that changes the landscape slightly, but also the fact that the media narrative is, and I'll give my diplomatic version here, is some sort of hallelujah green growth transition, which means that everything in this transition is seen out of the lens of how to make a profit and a return on investment. And even though you were talking about your mantras, but my mantra is, yes, there are huge opportunities and wealth to be created in this transition, but not all aspects of it will be profitable, but we have to do them anyway. Miriam, back into the conversation from your point of view, that you now have both feet in both sides of the ground. How do you see this, the media narrative play into the realities?
I think looking at specifically the U.S. and what the focus is on now, it really comes back to the short term, and I think trying to lengthen that perspective will take, I think, a lot of partnerships, and that's something that I think Sweden does so well. Public-private partnerships. There's an initiative that I just learned about called the Sweden-US Green Transition Initiative, which was launched by the Swedish Energy Agency, Vinnova, I think some other organizations as well, but is designed to be that kind of connectivity, bridging together both government and public and private partnerships, as well as academia and research. And I think that that's what it's going to take to change the narrative, because I think, and this is where I have my filter on, Sweden has a very different perch from which to work on innovation, and is almost the perfect test case for a lot of the innovation to take root. And so in some cases, I think there's such a great opportunity here, especially to show best practices, to work on hard to abate sectors. I know that I understand that the Swedish Export Credit Corporation just signed a loan guarantee for Preem to convert an oil refinery. And I think we're going to need a lot of that kind of work, especially in the hard to abate sectors, where the media narrative is really focused on the cooperation and the partnership, and less so on a more polarized view, which I think is what you were alluding to.
Yeah, and if we exaggerate and simplify slightly. So guys, if you see Sweden as, and you use the word perfect, so I'm going to say that.
No, I didn't.
A perfect test market, or the Nordics or Europe as a continent where we can test, there's room for innovation, there's governmental support, etc. What would you like to see? Like, what can we offer you if we're going to be like specific to move the green needle? Anyone can start the wish list.
Yeah. From my perspective, I'm very bullish on the stock market and on the private sector. I'm not gonna hide it. I mean, I do, and I can give the example of Elon Musk, for Tesla. And 10 years ago, the government did give, when they had trouble, they gave them a loan, and that's what the government of the United States decided to do. And so I do think that the government has a role to encourage those innovators and get those technology going, because if not, the current market has no incentive to change, because they're making the money and things are good. It's always the same fight that years over years. It's the old against the new, and the old wants to protect their assets, and the new has trouble getting financing and getting out there. And so I think the role of government is to make a level playing field, right? To let these technologies not get hindered by the whole market, and make sure that things are equal and everyone's playing by the rules. And I think minimizing the role and just of the government and doing that. And I think the US is, from my perspective, the government that does the best at that. It is what should happen. But that's my perspective.
Pablo, let me give you the shopping list. You've got battery companies like Northvolt. You've got green steel with H2 green steel in hybrid. We have companies like Climate View supporting cities in their green transition with technology platforms. We have geothermal exercises here in Europe that I'm personally invested in. Like, what would you want? What can I send to you?
Well, thinking long term, there's two things I want to highlight. One is Sweden and the European Union's experience with carbon markets. Carbon markets are definitely going to be part of the solution moving forward. Certainly here in Texas, we're not there yet, but we need to be. We will be eventually. Other states, in the Northeast, as well as on the West Coast, have experience with this, but we need a carbon market mechanism that works to put a price on carbon. And you guys have way more experience.
Is there an appetite for that at all?
I would say it varies regionally. In Texas, I don't think we're ready yet, but we need to be. And as the constraints tighten, I think in the coming years, it's something that we're going to have to consider. We've tried to push it through as legislation at the national level without success, but that doesn't mean it can't happen in the future.